Hey guys! Today we're going to be presenting about Fritz Bauer.
I'm Rebecca.
Oh, I'm Jenna.
And I'm Madison. So Fritz Bauer was born into a Jewish family in 1903. He studied law at Heidelberg, Munich, and Tübingen, and he was a member of the Social Democratic Party.
Before the Nazi Party came to power, Fritz Bauer and Kurt Schumacher, the heads of the Social Democrats, would go around Germany and spread the word of Weimar democracy. Hitler later made this type of speech illegal when he passed the Enabling Act on March 23rd of 1933. Fritz Bauer was arrested by Nazis that same year. He was taken into protective custody at the Heuberg concentration camp. Protective custody at this time meant taking people who were considered like threats into custody, and this type of action required no evidence or reason. Bauer was arrested for being considered a political opponent and therefore a danger to the Weimar Republic. Bauer, as a political enemy, was taken to the camp to be tortured and humiliated. While he was there, he was forced by Nazis to clean the camp's sanitation system underneath the camp's bathroom, the communal bathroom. He was released after 8 months, and he believes that his release from the camp was due to his friendships with people who were in the judiciary. When he was released, he was still treated like a criminal because at this time it was illegal for Jewish people to hold positions like a judge in Bauer's case. When he and his family fled to Denmark, he was still met with hostility and imprisonment. He was first confined to a Copenhagen prison and then an island prison camp. Bauer later returned to Germany as soon as he heard that the Nazis had surrendered in 1945.
He was unable to re-enter Germany after the war because he would aid in rebuilding an independent judiciary in Germany. And he was one of the most important prosecutors of the Nazi trials. He didn't really trust in the German court, so he suggested that they move it to Israel. And for that reason, when in 1957 he received a tip about Eichmann's location in Buenos Aires, Argentina, he had discovered that Eichmann's daughter married a former lieutenant colonel. So he, because of his distrust in the German courts, he passed the file to the Mossad director, which is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. And a Holocaust survivor broke into that office, found the files, and then 3 years later Eichmann was captured in Buenos Aires. Another reason why that Bauer was seen so highly after the war and the trials.
So he was mainly a member who prosecuted many members of the Auschwitz complex. A lot of his motivation was to make sure that Germans truly understood what exactly they did and their responsibility for those actions. Rebecca Whitman is an author who wrote about this topic a lot, as well as Bauer. She called the media coverage of the trials pornography of the Holocaust because of the gruesome details that the Holocaust prosecutors would use often in order to grant their chances of conviction. So a lot of what he did was also mainly prosecuting, but he also said that the trials were the days of judgment, of last judgment for these people being convicted. Often, many German people did not think of the ordinary people in Germany as that they had anything to do with the Holocaust. And actually, a lot of what they did was allowing it to happen and allowing Hitler to do what he did, which ultimately made him so powerful in what he was doing.
Yeah, like you were saying, like the people that weren't really explicitly murdering people, he had he was kind of going after those people. He persecuted desk perpetrators. These were seen as people that just made decisions in offices, and it basically just led to the domino effect, the Holocaust happening. Also judges and concentration camp officials. At the time, the courts were under the Allied jurisdiction. And he actually implemented a lot of good things that would help get more people persecuted. For example, he implemented the idea of concurrence of offenses, where in place of accumulation of offenses, where concurrence is when one action has multiple results and accumulation is when multiple actions have multiple results. This led to him establishing unitary convictions, where instead of multiple murders being counted as one, it would be individual murders, so to further persecute the people more.
Yes, and a lot of what the prosecutors tried to do or attempted to do was to teach Germans a lesson, mainly because of the murder statute, but because of it they were unable to do so because of the strict constraints on it. And then a lot of the society back then, it emphasized the importance of policing one another within their own community, since no one was really looking closely at the individuals at that time and what they did. But many of the crimes that were smaller often were dismissed because there was a statute of limitations, and there was not many exceptions to it unless for the main Nazis who committed the worst crimes. And in 1946, 70% of West Germans supported war crime trials, and many others did not like them.
He also worked to persecute judges that signed off on the euthanasia laws, which were laws that basically killed people that were either not fertile, non-Aryan, or had some type of mental disability, or were alcoholics, just seen as like not functioning members of society. So he also arrested judges based on that, which further helped the trials. He started to gather files, information about the judges that signed up on the euthanasia laws. Unfortunately, in 1965, when he passed, this was thrown out and not completed.
All right.
Is that how we're gonna end?
Okay. So one of my articles that I found actually brought forth an idea which is really prevalent to the whole idea of re-education within Germany. The quote is, "Rebuilding a democratic society is unthinkable without respect for the dignity of everyone." The jurist insisted on the slogan, "Germany above all," should be replaced by the statement, "All people are brothers." To do this, German society needed a comprehensive program of re-education, eliminating authoritarian thinking and deeply rooted racial prejudices. So a lot of what we discussed in class throughout the past semester was about re-education throughout Germany following the war. Not only the need for just re-education, but also economic reform. A lot of the time people would come from the west with money and spend it in the eastern zones, and a lot of this would cause an outbreak, and it could ultimately turn into the same thing as the Great Depression and cause another war to start over again. The new constitution also came to prevent another radical leader from taking over, and that was ultimately the main idea of re-education as a whole. But many Germans were not willing to push the reforms in the American zones because they believed that the Americans would eventually leave.
So, in conclusion, Fritz Bauer is still very relevant today. There was a film in 2015 called The People vs. Fritz Bauer, which won the German Film Award for Best Feature Film. There is the Fritz Bauer Forum in Bochum. I don't know if I said that right. Which is a place of research and education where researchers and professors can meet from all over the world to discuss human rights. There's the Fritz Bauer Institute in Frankfurt, which focuses on the history of the National Socialist Party's crimes, and it focuses particularly on the Holocaust and how it's impacted us today. And there's also a Fritz Bauer Street in Frankfurt. So
Yeah. Bye.